In this video, I'll be going over my $3,500 portfolio on the Robinhood app. But before I get into the video, if you haven't checked out my channel before, I talk about investing, I talk about the stock market, really anything that has to do with money. So if you're interested in anything like that, definitely head over into my channel, Investing Potentials, and consider subscribing. But other than that, getting right into the video. As you can see right here, I have pulled up my portfolio on the Robinhood app. And if you haven't checked out the Robinhood app before, it's a great brokerage that charges you absolutely nothing. So if you're interested in signing up for that, I posted videos on my channel in the past about it, and you can click the link in the description and you will receive a free stock when signing up for the app. But anyways, getting right into it, I'm going to scroll through my portfolio here, and I'm not going to say like why I bought the stocks or anything like that. Just kind of going to show you guys when I bought the stocks, what stocks I bought, and just a little bit on how well I've been doing on these stocks. So I have my portfolio divided up into different stock market sectors and industries, and the first sector right here is the technology sector. First stock starting off the list is Microsoft, ticker symbol MSFT. Microsoft up about 25% on this or so. I would like to add a couple more shares of them, but it's kind of hard when you have such a low average cost on them. Moving on to the next stock is Facebook, up about 20%, pretty similar to Microsoft in that I would like to add more shares, but I am up so much. Twitter, added this one recently, up quite a bit. If you bought Twitter when I said to in my monthly, I think it was my monthly November video, stocks to buy for November, you would have done very well on them. So if you pay attention to my channel, hopefully you did. Next stock is AT&T, ticker symbol T. This is a technology / telecom communications company. AT&T, I have 2 shares of, up a bit on them. They're really at a great buy-in point. When I bought them, I saw the dip right there, and I had to jump in. And besides being up quite a bit, up 12% or so, and only holding them for, I believe, only a couple of months, not even a month or so, they're definitely, or actually right around 2 months or so. I'm up on them, and with the dividend yield, you really can't go wrong there. Next stock is Intel, ticker symbol INTC, up 35%, and I think Intel is really one of the safer stocks in its specific industry, not sector, but industry with computer chips and stuff like that. I think it's a lot more safer than AMD and Nvidia, even though they're not exactly in the same industry. They're pretty much competitors for the same kind of business for a lot of things. I think Intel's the best, safest buy. Moving on to the next stock is Square, ticker symbol SQ, and Square has been down of late, so it's probably at a good buy-in point right now. It's actually down the most it's been down in it's a year or so, or a couple of years or so, so definitely at a good buy-in point there. Next stock is Fitbit. I just have 1 share of this. I was just trying to do some swing trades with Fitbit. I still think it's a pretty solid pick overall because smartwatches are becoming more popular. But anyways, moving to the next stock is Apple, ticker symbol AAPL. Apple, I have 1 share of, had 2 shares of them, but sold it because I had to take a little bit of money out of my portfolio. The next stock, and by the way, moving on to consumer goods, next stock is Pepsi, ticker symbol PEP, up a little bit on them, more of a safe dividend stock right here. I was debating between Pepsi and Coke, and I went with Pepsi because they have better growth. Next stock is Kraft Foods, ticker symbol KHC, and this is actually one of the few stocks I'm down on, so I might average down on them, but I just didn't really buy in at a great point, which I'm not really worried about. Next stock is Nike, ticker symbol NKE, up a bit on Nike. I had another share of them somewhat recently as well, and I think Nike is going to perform very well over the next couple of years. Next stock is GM, ticker symbol GM. I have 3 shares of them. I believe I recently added a share of them as well. I'm trying to kind of put more money into the stocks I really like, trying to not necessarily make my portfolio less diverse, but definitely widen my position on certain companies. GM, great dividend yield as well, almost at, I believe they're right around 5%. I think Robinhood's not totally accurate on that. Next stock is Ford, ticker symbol F. Ford, I usually just use to do swing trades. I had a video on my channel. I executed a really nice swing trade with Ford. I was up I think 15% or 12 or 15% or something like that. And then I decided to do a swing trade and get a dividend capture with them. So it was a really good swing trade there. Next stock is Netflix, ticker symbol NFLX. Netflix up quite a bit on them. I think this is really great, one of the best stocks in their specific sector. Great growth stock right here. Next stock is McDonald's, and I'm moving on to services right now. To the services sector of my portfolio, or section of my portfolio. Next stock, McDonald's, up quite a bit on them. Pretty solid blue chip dividend stock right here. Next stock is Starbucks, have 2 shares of them. And Starbucks up a little bit, but I think it was actually a good buying point for them, so that's why I got them where I did. Moving on to 3M, moving on to the industrial section of my portfolio as well. 3M, really solid blue chip stock, up a little bit on them. Next stock is Boeing, ticker symbol BA. Boeing up quite a bit on them. I would like to add more to Boeing, but once again, it's really hard during a bull market to want to add more position or add a bigger position to any stocks, especially when most of the stocks I have are actually up because of how the market's been performing. Next stock is Johnson & Johnson, another blue chip dividend stock. Have 2 shares of them. I think they're one of the better and really safer healthcare picks out there, and this is obviously the healthcare section of my portfolio. Next is Pfizer, ticker symbol PFE. I have 2 shares of them. Another pretty solid healthcare stock here with a nice dividend yield as well. Next stock is AbbVie, up quite a bit on them. This is another, I don't know if I want to say risky stock pick, because it's really not risky, but it's definitely more of a growth stock than Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, as you can see by up, the year up 62%. Next, moving on to the financials, I have one REIT, Apple Hospitality, up about 6%. They have a really nice dividend yield, and they are a monthly dividend stock as well. Only have 1 share of them currently. Next is PayPal, ticker symbol PYPL, up quite a bit on PayPal. I think that's a pretty solid financial. It's kind of like a finance/technology pick there. Next stock is Morgan Stanley, ticker symbol MS, and Morgan Stanley up a bit on them. I think it's one of the better financial stocks out there that are relatively safe, have decent growth, and they do have a little bit of a dividend yield. I wish it was a little bit higher, but not a big deal. Next stock is Bank of America. I recently added this because I thought it was at a pretty good buying point. I think I bought it in $26, so it was right around this range right here. It was on a bit of a dip, so I decided to get in on Bank of America. Next stock is KeyBank, ticker symbol KEY, and up a little bit on them. This isn't like the best stock or anything like that. It's just my local bank that I use, so decided to buy a share of them, and they're a pretty solid company overall. Next is my monthly dividend stock, Gladstone Capital, down a little bit. Might actually add a couple shares of it to lower my average cost, but they have a very, very high dividend yield, and they are a monthly dividend stock as well. So as you can see right here, I've been getting those dividends for quite a while now. Next stock, another monthly dividend stock, is Main Street Capital, ticker symbol MAIN. And Main Street Capital, as I said, they have a little bit lower of a dividend yield than Gladstone, but still a pretty solid monthly dividend stock. Next is Realty Income, probably one of the most famous monthly dividend stocks. As you can see right here, I recently added in but pretty solid pick there, pretty reliable dividend as well. Next is Dow DuPont. I liked both of these companies before they merged about, I believe it was like 3 months ago or something like that, maybe a little less than that, in September. So I thought the merger made this stock even more valuable, and very solid dividend yield, really large, now probably becoming a blue chip company or a blue chip stock. But moving on to the next stock is Southern, which has been down of late. Not really a big deal there. Probably not going to add any more position in the Southern at all, but they do have a really solid dividend yield. Then moving on to the last section of my portfolio, which are just ETFs. First one is SPHD, PowerShare S&P 500 high dividend portfolio. High dividend, low volatility stocks in the S&P 500. I believe they track like 50 of them or something like that. And they have a monthly dividend, as you can see right here. I've been collecting those for quite a while, and it's a decent rate, around 3.85. I think it's actually a little higher than that. I think it's closer to 4. Whoops. Moving on to the next stock is Vanguard S&P 500, ticker symbol VOO. This is just an ETF that basically mirrors S&P 500. That's just pretty much added to my portfolio for a little bit of diversity. And actually has a pretty decent dividend yield, 1.85%, not terrible. Next stock is NOBL, Power Shares S&P 500 Dividend Aristocrats, and up a little bit on them. Have a solid dividend yield, and I think they actually cover a pretty decent amount of stocks, which are just obviously the Dividend Aristocrats, but I think those are pretty decent stocks. So that's it for their portfolio. I'm going to scroll through it slowly as I close out here just to show you guys once again. But anyways, before I end, like always, if you haven't checked out my channel before, I talk about the stock market, I talk about investing, really anything that has to do with money. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, definitely head over onto my channel, Investing Potentials, and consider subscribing. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video.